Proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. Faux patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan radio, talk on the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us flow. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan radio, talk on the left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. 'Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan radio, talk on the left, that's right. Liberal Dan radio, talk on the left, that's right.
And welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. We may or may not open up the phone lines today. It depends on how long I feel like doing the show. I do have a bunch of stuff to get done tonight because we're leaving town in 2 days, and I still have laundry to do, still have to pack, all that good stuff. So lots of stuff that needs to be done, but we have to do the show before we can do anything because, there's lots of stuff to talk about. But we will see how quickly we get through the topics at hand, and we'll go from there. But you can always leave your comments in the chat. You can either on liberaldanradio.com, which is the YouTube channel, or twitch.liberaldanradio.com, which is the Twitch channel, obviously. Wouldn't it be rather confusing if I switched it up and made it the opposite way? Anyway, so maybe that'd be a good April Fool's prank or something. I don't know. Anyway, so you want to support the channel, please remember to like the video, share, subscribe, share, get other people to comment on other episode threads or video threads. Share the new Liberal Dan Radio music that we've got going on, especially the Baby Incubator song, which we'll probably hear later towards the end of the show. So you can always, we're trying to get up the subscriptions, have a couple of ideas of what might work after I get back from vacation. We will see. I might have a lot of time on my hands starting in August to work on some stuff simply because of the fact that I'll be doing my knee surgery, and so I don't know how long I'll be laid up after the knee surgery. So there's that. And hey, Rose, what's going on? We got Rosie Posey visiting us today, gracing us with our presence for the first time in forever. Anyway, so other ways you can support the show besides giving Rosie Posey some love. If you Venmo me at a Liberal Dan on Venmo, maybe I could buy Rosie some treats with that. You could also buy me a cider. Go to buymeacoffee.com/liberaldanradio, or just go to liberaldan.com and click the Buy Me a Cider button. Either way gets you there. You can also become a Liberal Dan Radio patron, patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way gets you there as well. But again, the most important thing is helping out the algorithm, because Al Gore needs more rhythm. And if you think Al Gore needs more rhythm, you need to go ahead and go to store.liberaldan.com and get the Al Gore Needs More Rhythm t-shirt, where there's always the FDT as well, the F Donald Trump or the FDT shirt. Check both of them out. More shirt designs coming along the way. But go ahead. One of the other ways that you can both support the show and let other people know that you are a Liberal Dan Radio listener, that you are a Danimal, if you will. Maybe I need a Danimals Unite shirt or something. We got Aaron and Orvilby over in the chat on Twitch. Over on YouTube, we got Fowler's Wrath, Steve from across the pond. If it's no Scottish, it's crap. Alton Gillespie, Aaron as well. Molly, good to see you, Molly. Suzanne, thank you for joining the show. CR as well, thank you so much. So we have a bunch of stuff that we're going to be talking about. We will be talking about the mayoral election in New York City, both why Democrats are really trying to shoot themselves in the foot, but not in the way you think, not in the way that some might think when I'm bringing that up. Also, there's some certain aspects pertaining to the election of, why living life as a Jewish person becomes relevant. So to make a second video in that series, actually a third video in the Living Life As series. If you haven't watched that, it's one of my playlists. There's only 2 videos on it right now. There will be 3 after the show's over. But I do have Living My Life as an Obese Person. That was probably my best one of those. Living Life as a Jewish Person, part 1, and this, of course, will be part 2, because we're going to start going into some of the things that have come up over the course of finding out that Zohran Mamdani won the Democratic primary for the mayoral race in New York City. Spent a good part of the day arguing with a friend of mine who was trying to really hardly assert that Mamdani is anti-Semitic, and while he said some problematic things, there's a whole bunch like everything in politics, or everything that should be in politics, as politics should be, there's a little more nuance to what's going on than just that, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Personally, had a rather crap day today, just to complain, bitch, moan, whine, etc. Even before my wife was in the hospital, before she, was for 7 to 8 weeks, even before then, between all of her other medical conditions, her doctor gave her a note that basically enabled her to get a disability placard for the car, and the approval for the disability placard was a permanent thing. So it was permanent. However, don't bury the lead. They're atrocious at every game. That's one of my points I'm bringing up. If you're on Twitch, atrocious at every game potentially spoiled that. There's a line to be drawn there, but there are also other people who could have been elected if you didn't like either of the two. There was, the arrested comptroller who got arrested the other day, who was also running for mayor. But that person didn't come in first or second, so there you go. Anyway, so back to the story of today. I dropped my wife off at her physical therapy, and Park put the handicap placard up because she is, has enough medical disabilities to enable her to use the handicap placard. But I didn't realize the fact that the handicap placard in and of itself was expired. And it expired back in January. Now, it expired in January, which it's maybe understandable why I didn't really notice it or wasn't paying much attention to it, because we had a lot of crap that has been going on in our household since January, because that's when January is when she started going into the hospital, started her hospital stays, all through January and all through February. So it's not surprising that we forgot. But the reason I found out that it was expired is because I come out ready to go get her, and guess what? I had a parking ticket for whatever, and we're supposed to get free parking if you have a handicap placard. But I didn't realize it expired. The permanent thing got expired. Now, somebody did bring up the fact that, maybe the reason that they do that, even though you permanently can have the placard, one of the reasons they might require you to renew it every once in a while is simply because they don't want somebody taking that placard and using it after someone dies, which is understandable, I guess, but at a 30,000 level view, I guess it might be understandable to some to say, okay, well, maybe you should, have to re-up it. But I mean, what if you are, if you have a disability, going and doing the things like that might take more effort. So it might be considered a little more ableist, so to speak, if you are requiring people with disabilities to jump through hoops to have to get their disability placard again. Where if you had a disability plate, I mean, you had your license, I guess your car registration, you have whenever that renews, you would have to do that. But in Louisiana, you could do that by mail. So anyway, I got out, saw the ticket, and was just like, what else is going to go? I mean, look, it's only a $30 ticket. And in the grand scheme of, in a vacuum, I can deal with a $30 ticket. But in the grand scheme of things, with everything piling up upon each other, yeah, I was very frustrated. I'm very, very frustrated about that, just because it's just one more straw on my proverbial camel's back. Can't sell the house that my mother-in-law had. 2 buyers fell through. Can't, again, I talked about, I think on the last show, how insurance, when I switched to Medicaid, from Medicaid to my work insurance, that my monthly costs went up about $1,000 a month, and that's just for premiums, not for the other costs involved with a regular insurance plan. So all of that stuff is siphoning money quickly out of my wallet and increasing my debt a lot. And so just more things that are unnecessary, just I was not in a happy mood today. Let's just put it that way. It took me a while to actually be able to, not have a scowl on my face, so to speak. So, let's see. We got Roxanne. Big Hook's in the house, our good friend from the Great White North. What else? Big Hook says, did you see Rubio has made it mandatory that international students make all their social media be made public for scrutiny by the government and others? No, I did not see that. Maybe that'll be a topic. Oh, I would say maybe that'll be a topic for the show for Monday, but we're not doing a show Monday. Or maybe we're not doing a show Monday. We'll see. I'll have my laptop with me. We will see. But yeah, I don't know how he would be able to do. I mean, Aaron brings up also that he shouldn't be able to do that, that he can't do that. But there's a lot of things that this administration technically are not allowed to do, but they're still doing it, like, deporting people without due process. They can't, in quotes, they can't deport people without due process. The Supreme Court has ruled that they can't deport people without due process, but they are still doing it. And not only that, but the... did I not download that? I guess I didn't download that, or did I not even make it? I guess I didn't even make it. So, oh well. We won't have a background image for that. But let's see. Let's just go ahead and change it to the first thing we're going to talk about in this one anyway, which is that one. Yeah. So, speaking of things that this administration shouldn't be able to do or are doing, and showing where their focus is as it pertains to, their border policies, naturalization, immigration, enforcement, ICE and Border Patrol agents, who they're targeting. They made it sound when he campaigned that this is all about the security on the border. All about the security on the border. We got to make sure that the border is secure. We need to have the most secure border in the world, or whatever. And, all the fentanyl coming across, all the, murderers, all the other people, rapists, terrible people coming across. They're sending us their worst. They're sending us their criminals, blah, 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 blah. All that stuff. So you'd think that with all that bluster that he was trying to play around with when it came to, immigration and deportations and stuff like that, you'd think that he'd be at the border trying to prevent the worst of the worst from getting across. But clearly that's not the case. And I've already said on the show previously that I don't believe the reasons for the numbers. I either don't believe the numbers or don't believe the reason for the numbers for the border encounters having dropped. Because he likes to make it seem like the border encounters have dropped because of the fact that, or because of the idea that he's so strong against against illegal immigration, therefore they're afraid to come across, or they're such staunchly standing up for our border, or whatever. But no, they're not doing that. They've taken ICE agents, they've taken Border Patrol agents, and they've moved them into the cities. They've moved them into blue cities, specifically to go target persons who are the low-hanging fruit, people who are not threats, people who are causing nobody harm. We still have. They talked about Lake and Riley till they were blue in the face. I'm sure, is the murderer of Lake and Riley, has he been deported yet? Or are we going to just pay to keep him in jail or whatever? I guess there's an argument to be made as to why he should be in prison and not deported. But still, I would much rather see people like that deported, because he got his due process. He had his trial. He was found guilty of murder. So, deport him. Deport him to that El Salvadorian prison if you want. I don't care about that individual person, because that individual person got due process and was found guilty. But no. Instead, they're going up against, and this is what they did the last administration too, which is why you can't take anything Donald Trump says seriously, especially when it comes to immigration. He was targeting the low-hanging fruit. He was targeting, people who are causing nobody harm, yet, they may have like an asterisk on themselves because they didn't do something. They didn't dot an I or cross a T, even though they're living here peacefully. Lakeview is an area in New Orleans. Lakeview family says that they are in disbelief. I don't know why they're in disbelief. Nobody should be in disbelief at the moment because it's happening all the time. But they're in disbelief after immigration and custom enforcement agents detained a 64-year-old Mandonna Kashanian, an Iranian-born woman who has lived in the United States for 5 decades. Kashanian was taken into custody Sunday morning in front of her home in Woodlawn Place. According to her family, she was picking figs with neighborhood children when 3 unmarked vehicles pulled up around 10 a.m. Officers handcuffed her without saying a word. Her daughter, Caitlin Milne, said the arrest happened within 60 seconds while she and her father, Kashanian's husband of 35 years, were inside of the home unaware. She says she's okay. She's more worried about us, as Milne says. She's our support system. The first thing that she said on the phone was to make sure the homeowner's insurance is paid. A neighbor, Sarah Gehrig, recalled the moment her husband saw the arrest unfold. My husband yelled, I thought he was being dramatic, and then I saw what was happening. They're taking Donna. He ran out and tried to talk to the officers. The family says ICE agents offered no explanation on the scene. Kashanian was initially taken to jail in Hancock County, Mississippi, and then transferred to Jena and then Bastille, Louisiana, for the ICE detention centers that they have in those two particular places. And of course, why do they have ICE detention centers in Louisiana and other areas such as this? Because we're under the Fifth Circuit, and the Trump administration understands that the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals is going to be the most friendly of the Court of Appeals to his administration. And they want to have as many wins as possible before getting it up to the Supreme Court, if anything does make it up to the Supreme Court. A family member says Kashanian has no criminal record, has remained compliant with immigration rules. She's lived in the United States since the late 1970s on a student visa, which did expire. I mean, that's the asterisk, I guess, that they're hanging their hat on. 2 decades ago, she was granted a stay of deportation, which allowed her to remain in the U.S. under supervision. Again, so she's fine. She got a stay. She's married to an American citizen, daughter born in the U.S. Her family is now working to obtain legal representation. Say they've reached out to several Louisiana congresspeople for help. They're also trying to determine when they'll be allowed. It says when they'll be allowed. I'm going to say if they'll be allowed to visit her in detention. ICE has not yet responded to Fox 8 request for comment. So, and all these people on these posts, on these Facebook threads dealing with this particular topic are like, well, she should have followed law. She got to stay. They told her, you can stay as long as you're under supervision. Now, what did she do anything under supervision that was wrong, except for maybe being born in Iran? Like, is that the only thing that she did that was wrong? Because the overstayed student visa isn't what necessarily is going to do that, especially if you've had to stay on what's going on. But this administration has proven that it doesn't give crap about what previous judges have said, how previous judges have ruled, because a previous judge said, that you couldn't deport Garcia to anywhere, to El Salvador, because it would be dangerous to him, and yet they still did it. So guess what? This administration is, again, proving themselves to be more and more lawless, and they don't give a rat's patoot about what's going on with actual laws and what people should be getting, what people, deserve. And they don't give a crap about so-called safety, because if they were caring about so-called safety, they'd be going up against people who were, violent criminals, instead of going against a mother who's done nothing to harm anybody in the almost 5 decades that she's lived here. So the only thing that this does is it satisfies, it panders to his rabid, bigoted MAGA base. So they can sit here and go, yeah, he's going after all the people that are here illegally, regardless of whether or not they're actually violating the laws or not, regardless of whatever judicial actions have taken place that might allow them to stay, regardless of all that other stuff. But they don't care, because as long as they're not white, they're going to be going after them. And the MAGA people will clap like a bunch of freaking idiots over it. Anyway, so there's that. It's frustrating. I mean, and I'm not even, but again, people are saying, well, she's not a citizen, she doesn't get due process. Of course she gets due process. You are guaranteed, as a person living in our borders, are guaranteed due process. It doesn't matter if you're a citizen. It doesn't matter if you're here. It doesn't matter if you're here legally or not. Because if how do they know if you're here legally or not unless you get the due process when you're charged with a crime? But MAGA idiots are so stupid that they don't understand this crap. And on that one thread that I was seeing about, 47, she was here 47 years, blah, blah, blah. Like, so many people posting the same exact comment made me think, how many of these are just Russian MAGA bots? How many of these are just artificial intelligence, just using different names and repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again? But then again, what is the difference between an artificial intelligence and somebody with no intelligence if the artificial intelligence isn't that bright to begin with? So that could be maybe a drinking game or something, a game you could play while reading, threads on Facebook or on Twitter or wherever social media site you're on. You can be like, is this response somebody who is artificial intelligence, or is this somebody who has no intelligence? And no intelligence, I should say. Because, it's all freaking frustrating and terrible. Anyway, so let's go back over the comments just to see. Josh, good to see you. Josh, Dawn, good to see you as well. Thank you for going up. Let's see. I was on Safe in the Miller YouTube chat and asked if anyone was seeing my resistance post. Crickets, F it. Not going to bother anymore. You can be overrun and enslaved by the maggots and ICE. I mean, we do see you here. So, were you on live chat or top chat? That's another question you could ask. Are you on, was it scrolling that fast that you just couldn't see it? Because at some point, if you scroll too fast, you just miss it. Like sometimes I'll try and scroll up and be like, oh, there was a comment I wanted to see, but I don't see it. But we do see you, Big Hook. And, we appreciate you here on Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. But, if you find yourself that you are being more censored, definitely let me know. Let's see. Who else did I miss who joined? Let's see. Did you see the posts of actions to take against ICE? I'm wondering if actions against ICE. I'm wondering, that would be an interesting thing to do. If you posted the actions against ICE here on our chat, maybe that could see if it's YouTube doing it, automatically pulling information with their artificial intelligence, like the same artificial intelligence that couldn't figure out that I was doing comments on a video under fair use, and as such that shut my YouTube stream down for a little bit last show. See, Mac, you can check your posts on a computer by going to the right of your message, clicking three dots, and you can see remove. Then people can see your post. If not, it's invisible. But again, we don't know if. Again, but I'm fine with you doing an experiment in our chat, and I would definitely be interested to see if they start getting disappeared by themselves or whatever. Because I know Aaron and Jolie aren't going to be deleting your comments. That's for darn sure. See, I was on top chat and I could see my post. When I asked if anyone was seeing them, nobody was answering. That's the thing. If you're on top chat, if other people were on top chat, then they probably weren't seeing half of your posts either. That's the thing. That's why I always watch on live chat, even if it's scrolling really, really fast, because what is a top chat to AI and what is an actual top chat are two different things. So, let's see. So if I get this right, in New York City, Mayor Royce is from atrocious at every game on Twitch. Although Twitch seems to potentially be down. Oh, no, we're back. Maybe. There we go. For some reason, I couldn't see the player. But now I can. So if I get this right, NOC Mayor Royce was between an arrested comptroller, a sexual abuser, Eric Adams, who was all accounts guilty of fraud, but for a sweetheart deal with Trump's borders are. Nice primary there. Well, except for Mamdani, LOL. GOP voted down the bipartisan border bill at the behest of Trump, who wouldn't have much to run on if the problem were fixed. Exactly. We've talked about that many, many times. Yes, unimaginably horrific. Exactly. Hal says we're all tops. Say that again, Aaron, if we get impeccable living in here. Because I have a comment to make, but I really want the first time I make the joke that I want to make, which I'm guessing you could probably figure out what it is right now. I actually want him to be able to respond to it and be the first to hear the actual joke when I make it.
Oh my!
Anyway, Needless to say, I'm guaranteeing you that that some of the people who are in this chat are definitely not tops. So is it a case you have to be in all messages versus top messages? I don't know. If I'm in live chat and not all top chat, it's not going to prevent others from seeing what I type. But if others put in top chat as well, if everybody put in top chat, they're going to miss some of the live chat because it's going to basically go into the whims of the YouTube gods or the YouTube bots or the YouTube whatevers to determine what is a top chat and what is not a top chat. I don't know if the new top fan things has anything to do with it. Maybe the top fans might get more play. I don't know. But anyway, you're more than welcome to, if you want to. Often when I do things like that, when I have things that I want to put in the chat, I will often copy and paste it. So just if you have such a thing and want to copy and paste some of your actions that could be taken against ICE, I'd be more than happy to see what you say and see if YouTube decides it's going to yeet it or not. So, everyone should be able to see that, right? Except don't look, ladies. What? I don't know. Did I miss something? Oh, it's frustrating AF when you are leaving text with no responses. I know twice I've been a ghost. No one could see my messages. Frustrating, bro, but check out my test. All right, there you go. Anyway. So. The first part of the two parts that I'm going to be discussing with the New York City mayoral primaries is the fact that the Democrats just seem to want to lose. Why do they seem to want to lose? Well, we all remember Andrew Cuomo, right? Andrew Cuomo on February 28th of, I think, 2021 maybe, said in response to the accusations that were made against him, I now understand that my interactions may have been insensitive or too personal, and that some of my comments, given my position, made others feel in ways that I didn't intend. At work sometimes I think I'm being playful and make jokes that I think are funny. I mean, no offense, and I only attempt to add some levity and banter to what is very serious business, whilst probably standing there with a thin shirt where you can see his nipple rings. Because I don't know, I had a very hard time taking Governor Cuomo seriously every time he's sitting there talking about stuff relating to like COVID or whatever. And then there's his nipple rings just there, haha. So, anyway. But you have a ton of people who came out against Governor Cuomo. A ton of people, like Lindsey Boylan, Carolyn Bennett, Anna Rush, Anna Liss, Karen Hinton, Brittany Comiso, somebody who was just named Caitlin with no last name given, Jessica Bakeman, Valerie Bauman, Alyssa McGrath, Sherry Ville, an unnamed state trooper, two unnamed state entity employees, Virginia Lemiadis, and other witnesses to his alleged actions that took place when he was sitting governor of the state of New York. So, and it was enough that instead of having to deal with, the attempt to get him impeached, he just resigned. As well he should have. But I guess he missed political life. I guess he missed, having more opportunities to allegedly go after people and grope them and touch them inappropriately, make inappropriate comments towards them, etc. So he ran for office. And he not only got big money donors, he got, Bill Clinton endorsed him. Way to go, Bill. Way to tarnish, whatever legacy you might have had, or way to perpetuate, people make accusations about old William Jefferson Clinton as well, about things that he may have done. And now he's going to go on and endorse somebody who was, accused of multiple examples of sexual harassment and inappropriate touching. That's not a good look there, President Clinton. Former Housing and Urban Development Secretary Henry Cisneros, New York Governor David Paterson, Mike Bloomberg. Now, Bloomberg has flipped around all different places when it comes to party affiliation, but a whole bunch of Democratic Party people. Just all these people. New York politicians, national politicians, etc. all endorsing this guy against, there were plenty of people who seemed, you could have endorsed somebody else, but for some reason, the big money decided to go against him or go for him. Was it because of him, or did they think that he was the best person to beat Mamdani? But more on that in a little bit in the second part of the video. Although Mamdani does have his share of endorsements as well. Bernie Sanders, AOC, Nydia Velasquez, former Congressman Jamal Bauman, Letitia James, Brad Lander, who is also running against him. I guess this might be a new endorsement after, the primary part was over. A bunch of state senators, state assemblymen, former state assemblymen, local politicians, Jewish Voice for Peace, the Jewish Vote, Stonewall Democrats, Lambda Independent Democrats, whole bunch of stuff. Now, can we take a brief pause talking about who endorsed and just compare and contrast these two websites? Because as a techie person, I know my liberaldan.com website isn't the greatest. I know that it's very bare bones, but I'm also not running for political office. I think when I ran for political office the last time, I might have had a website that looked for this, but I was the only person that was doing the website development for that. Now, did have my wife who did contribute some, before we were married. She contributed some of those images to my campaign website, and I'm appreciative of that because she is more the artsy-fartsy person, and while I can do some things, she's definitely the professional of the two when it comes to graphic design. But who's the graphic designer here? A picture and some WordPress stuff, I guess. Not great. Not a very good website at all. Meanwhile, this is more flashy, more, it's probably still some template stuff that they're using, but just the endorsement page in and of itself is much more crisper, cleaner, etc., which makes it looks like a more professional campaign. And you'd think with Cuomo, with all the big money backers that he had, could afford a much nicer website. But the looks of things aren't the important thing here. What's more important is, the issues of the race. And part of the issues of the race was the fact that Cuomo couldn't even pronounce Mamdani's name correctly. And he called him out for that on the debate stage, which is great. But all these Democrats, all these powerful Democrats, are sitting there trying to, back this guy who should have been run out of politics and never allowed back. They embrace Cuomo. Why on earth would you embrace Cuomo? Wasn't there, couldn't you endorse Lander? Couldn't you endorse somebody else in the race who might have served, get them, if you really didn't want Mamdani to win, I'm sure there were plenty of other candidates who you could have supported. But you didn't. You supported this asshat. Why? And to me, they just continuously want to shoot themselves in the foot. They continuously want to try and, grasp victory out of the jaws, or defeat out of the jaws of victory. They continuously want to just prove why more and more people are not going to vote for the Democratic Party, because when you have the choice between a progressive leftist candidate who is running as a Democrat, as opposed to Eric Adams, who is running as an independent, as the incumbent mayor, who is also, now Trump's lackey because Trump has full control over him, over the fact that they, dropped the charges, but they didn't drop the charges with prejudice. So they could always bring him back in case Eric Adams doesn't do the right thing for them, which is, kiss his orange behind. And that could be an interesting situation if you still have people who are still supporting Adams, And then you have people who are going to come out and vote, what is it, Saliwa or whatever, the guy that was in charge of the Guardian Angels or whatever it was called, whatever the Red Beret folks were. And then you had, and then of course you have Mamdani. So that's a bunch of split votes. I know New York has instant runoff, so I think some of the counting of that hasn't completely been completed, but Cuomo did, he did concede the election, so Mamdani is going to be your Democratic nominee running against the other folks trying to run the city of New York. But you're sitting there as a Democratic Party, throwing all of your resources against a shamed former governor who had to resign in disgrace. This does not tell me that y'all want a serious candidate. This does not tell me that y'all want to, attract more voters. This does not tell me that y'all are doing what you need to do to defeat Republicans in the upcoming midterm elections. This just tells me you're going to keep doing the same old. And Albert Einstein said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Well, if these people keep riding the same damn horses, well, sometimes these horses have to be put out to pasture. Because sometimes these horses have turned into horses' asses. We need to build coalitions in order to make sure that we can defeat MAGA. Because we failed to do so. And when we sit there and harp on itty-bitty little comments that are being made, and maybe some of them are seen as not so itty-bitty, and we'll get to those comments in the second part of this video. But if you're going to just, anybody else but Cuomo, anybody else would have been a better person to back. Be it Mamdani, be it somebody else. But the Democratic Party is going to continue to lose and going to continue to suffer. And not for the reasons that the pundits are saying. You have people on MSNBC this evening who are basically saying, oh, well, this is not a movement. This is not a real example. This is only a municipal election. Now, the person who said that is the former Republican lieutenant governor of Maryland. So his ideas on what is good for the Democratic Party are highly suspect. Regardless, I know he doesn't like Trump. I know Michael Steele doesn't like Donald Trump one bit. That being said, to downplay what's going on here just goes to show that people, in the media are not doing the right thing, are not reporting this in the correct way, which is another reason why I always say that we need new media. Because these clowns are not reading the tea properly. These clowns are not reading the room. These clowns are not understanding that, yes, to be able to get a relatively unknown New York council person or whatever, or alderman or whatever he was, to get a relatively unknown person to defeat a former governor is huge. It is a huge, big deal. And it's perhaps a lesson that the people in the Democratic Party should be paying attention to. Do I believe that the people who currently lead the Democratic Party are open to having, their ears, infiltrated by new ideas on how to build coalitions and how to, have campaigns that are effective, that can pull people from various diverse backgrounds together, as we saw with the Mamdani endorsements? Do I believe that they are at all capable of, learning from their past mistakes and moving forward into the future to try and build a better party and try and build a better nation that will protect the marginalized and oppressed people, that will, be there to protect everybody? I have serious doubts after seeing the actions here in this election, in this primary election. Because instead of working to improve the party, you backed a disgraced person and then insulted the other person so that the people who are supporting Mamdani are going to be like, well, I still have no need or no use for the Democratic Party. We're just supporting Mamdani, who just happens to be running as a Democrat, as a democratic socialist, like Bernie. But, again, the people are not going to come and support you as a party as a whole if you do not embrace the coalitions that form to put people over the top. Now, there are some like extreme leftists that I've also been debating with who don't believe that Mamdani can win, who will think that the Democratic Party establishment will now back Adams. Now, do I believe that doubt that the Democratic Party establishment will now back Adams? Sure, it's possible. It's even probable at this point. I mean, some Democrats are coming around now and saying, okay, we'll support Mamdani and now that he won the primary. But I don't. The Democratic Party leadership has to give me reasons to believe that they're not a bunch of frickin' idiots. And so far, I have no reason to believe that they're not a bunch of frickin' idiots. So, again, there'll be more in part 2 of this video where we start talking about some of the other topics that were brought up in this election, in this race, about things like anti-Semitism and stuff like that. Claims about things he said. I mean, he has said some things that potentially can be taken as in a negative way, and we'll go into that in a little bit. But just the Democratic Party just keeps proverbially shooting themselves in the foot, losing their opportunity to have more people embrace them by the party embracing the diverse set of ideals that come with the progressive left. Anyway. More on that in part 2 of this. Let's see. Let's scroll back and respond to any of the comments before I go into part 2. I'll change that because this is the main part of the show, main part of the topic. Let's see. I used to like the brother when he was on CNN, but he's now both sides type of guy. There are many times it's either evil or good, not both sides situation, Yeah, I mean, Cuomo has spent, his brother, Cuomo, have spent all this time writing a book on Biden about Biden's so-called mental deficiencies. Look at the current guy we have in office. Biden's no longer there. He's no longer, I'm not going to say he's not relevant, but he's not in office. Currently, we have somebody who completely lacks the mental facilities that are needed, the mental faculties that are needed to be able to get the job done, or at least in a proper way. I mean, he'll defraud you. That's the job will get done. But anyway. Well, first of all, Penny to Great, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Jan, good to see you as well. One of these days, I'll get to the point where I will, where I won't be able to say hello to everybody that pops in because we'll be scrolling too fast. And if that's the case, fine, so be it. But I do like that I'll try and greet as many people individually as I can. MJ Dana, good to see you. Let's see. Big money and the rest are stuck in a loop and keep repeating. This is the biggest problem with the Democratic Party. Well, one of the biggest problems, I would say. There's many problems with the Democratic Party, just as there are many problems with the media. To Aaron, I've been working on my website. Is that the new version? I've been working on my website all the live long day. I don't know. See, the Democratic Party is falling into the same wash, rinse, repeat cycle as GOP and keep throwing out the same crap, and big money has no imagination. No, it doesn't. Big money makes the world go round, and big money has to choose. Rush song that I enjoy. Was it only ranked choice voting for the primary and the general too? That'll make a difference. Let's see, shall we? General election, ranked choice or no? Ranked choice voting for New York City local elections. New York City will use ranked choice voting for primary and special elections for the offices of mayor, public advocate, comptroller, borough president, and city council because of an amendment of the city charter approved in 2019. How does it work? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, ranked choice voting is superior, but it doesn't seem to say that they're going to be using it in the general election, just for the primary and special elections for the offices of mayor, public advocate, comptroller, etc. So it's very well possible. Now, again, some states will have a runoff if you don't hit like 40%. Some will have a runoff if you don't hit simple majority. But it seems like, according to the New York City Vote NYC website, it's only used for primary and special elections in the boroughs, the 5 boroughs of New York City. let's see. Let's keep on scrolling down. They are paid quite well for the intentional, is it ignorance, you said? I scrolled too far. See, I do not even consider Adams a Democrat. He is MAGA Republican. I mean, he might not be a Republican, but he's definitely MAGA. Okay, again, hey, Penny to Creek, good to see you. Let's just kind of scroll on down. The problem is also the progressive and social Democrats are calling themselves leftist when they are not leftist because they do not endorse an end to private business and land ownership. Well, there are some leftists that do. There are some that I follow over on my Facebook page for Liberal Dan Radio that absolutely are for abolishing all private property ownership or whatever. But I mean, there are also people who, you know, what is a leftist and what is a progressive and what is a liberal or whatever in America versus the rest of the world are two different things, because the American left is kind of more center as compared to the left on the international stage. But then again, when we're discussing American politics, we can't really say, oh, well, they're not really leftist because look at Europe. No. You have to kind of look at the here in America as to where we are here. And I do support endorsing and moving every possible seat left as possible. But again, sometimes that means we support people who are centrists in districts that are red-leaning, etc. And also, you can't be a leftist unless you support the end of private ownership. That's one of the things, though, about the left. You ask 3 leftists what it takes to be a leftist, and you're going to get 5 opinions. And all of them, they're all going to argue with each other as to what a real leftist is, because one of the things that leftists do really well is gatekeeping. But hey, TV2 Live, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Centrist of the new left says 250 kilo ohms. What's left? I don't know. I'm sitting here trying. Of course, I'm sitting here as Liberal Dan trying to move everything leftwards. And of course, people who are, will see my name as Liberal Dan and be like, oh, you're just a liberal. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, well, here's the issues I support. Well, then why do you call yourself liberal? Why are you worried about my label instead of agreeing with me on the issues? That's why. If people are more concerned about the label you use, whether or not you're progressive or leftist or liberal, if people are more obsessed with that than over the actual issues you support, then those people are just navel gazers. Those people are just people who are unserious about politics. Anyway. Sort of like Hal's beef with Richard Wolff. I don't know if I've heard Hal's beef with Richard Wolff. I know Hal's beef with a lot of other people, but I don't know Hal's beef with Richard Wolff. Good to see you, Robin. Thank you for joining. I hate that liberals use this as slur now to the Hassans of the world. I'm a liberal because I guess I support Democrats. That's a pitfall, so be it. A lot of people taking a fit and voting for clownish grifters like Jill Stein. Yeah, I mean, Jill Stein is a Russian stooge. Jill Stein is clearly a Russian stooge. And what I call myself really is a pragmatic progressive, because I'm happy to push everything to the left. I'd love to see UBI. I'd love to see Medicare for all. I'd love to see a whole bunch of things that there are people who are liberals who are going to, that leftists might endorse or whatever. But, I'm willing to accept, I want Medicare for all, but if we can get something similar by adjusting the Affordable Care Act, I'm fine with that too. Because one of the points that I made to some of these leftists over on Facebook, other leftists I should say, is that, we currently don't have the political will to get rid of all the stuff you want to get rid of. But if we can show people how unburdening themselves with certain things, like if we can remove capitalism from healthcare and then show people how healthcare outcomes can improve by removing capitalism from healthcare, then you'll get more people on your side. It's like, oh, well, maybe they're right about other things too. But there are people who are unwilling to be pragmatic about it. There are these people who are like everything or nothing. And that's just as bad as the Republicans. That's just as bad as MAGA. So, and again, the leftists want to call the people who vote for Democrats blue MAGA, because people say, oh, vote blue no matter who. Well, yeah, because I'd rather vote for the party that's going to support body autonomy, that's going to support LGBTQA rights, that's going to support all this other stuff. But unfortunately, we have people who are now buying into the media bullshit about, oh, well, by supporting leftists and liberal, by supporting these leftist ideas like, equality for all, we have in our liberty and justice for all. We have that in, you know, that's an American ideal, liberty and justice for all. But, you know, if you're not on the board with everything, then you're nothing to some of these people who are on the left. So anyway, let's see. Atrocious at every game. I agree. I supported Warren in 2020 primary, but obviously supported Biden after Super Tuesday. I became the biggest Biden fan after seeing how much good he was able to get done. Blue MAGA. I didn't vote for Jeffrey Epstein's wingman or a guy who bragged about essay on a hot mic. Try that again. TYT. Yeah. I wanna hate you. TYT. Anyway. The people that argue both sides are bad voted for the greater evil, so they need to justify it. Yeah, that's... Either they voted for the greater evil, or they voted in a way that enabled the greater evil to win. Which, what's the moral difference at that point? Oh, I can look at my vote and say that I voted for the right person. No, you could look at your vote and you said you voted for somebody who had no chance of winning, thus enabling Hitler 2.0 to take power. That's not doing the right thing. Let's see. There are things that, you know, are good that I like from Mamdani's campaign site. Rent freezing, building affordable housing, cracking down on bad landlords, supporting homeowners and ending deed theft, city-owned grocery stores. I mean, I don't know how that's going to fly. I don't know how that is going to fly. Yes, food prices are out of control, and I don't know if city-owned grocery stores are going to be able to be a thing. I don't know if he'll be able to get the people to support him. That's the other thing. He'll have these things. He'll promote all these things. And then when the council doesn't do anything about it, when New York City government doesn't do anything to help vote these ordinances in to become the law of New York City, then they'll blame him for not getting it done. Of course, for some reason, switch to alternate again. Here's a picture of him in a store talking about grocery prices being out of control. And then the link is that read more at the New York Times. So why are you, a leftist candidate, posting to something behind a paywall? Or I'm assuming it's a paywall. Let's see. Yep, there you go. Paywall. Hey there, you're a paywall. You can't read us. Fast fare and free buses. I mean, there are free buses. I've ridden free buses in Baltimore. They're great. That's something that's reasonable to do. He supports no child care. Baby baskets for New York's newborns. Each New York City baby basket will include a resource guide of information on the city's newborn home visiting program, breastfeeding, postpartum depression, and more. Sounds reasonable. Paying for our agenda, taxing corporations in the 1%, climate, LGBTQA protections. Oh no, he's so terrible for wanting that. Labor, raising the minimum wage to $30 an hour by 2030. Maybe that's a reasonable goal. Who knows? But again, that's what he's proposing. That's his platform. Doesn't mean he's going to be able to get it done. Libraries are critical to the city's whatever. Trump-proofing NYC. I'm all about that. So, I mean, lots of good things that he has to say. So, if the Democratic candidate for mayor, Zohran Mamdani, is supporting all these good things, why are people so much against him? Well, he has said a couple of things that people have taken as being insulting, and people don't like some people who are supporters of Israel, some people who are Jewish, who might have a problem with some of the things that are said. And this is why I'm rolling this whole thing into Living Life as a Jewish Person, Part 2, the New York City mayoral race, Zohran Mamdani, and more. Okay, so why are these two things related? Because at the 30,000-foot point of view, Jewish people, two things that just Jewish people have to deal with. One, we have to be perfect. We have to, and this is not something that's just belonging to Jews. Black people, other minorities, other folks are expected to be perfect. And if we're not 100% perfect 100% of the time, we are wrong. And we're horrible people and whatever. Meanwhile, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, white Christians, or whatever, can make their mistakes, can say inartful things, can do horrible things, and get a pass. But if us Jewish people say something somewhat wrong, we're terrible, don't listen to us. And the other side of that coin is that as Jewish people, we are the only ones who can legitimately make claims as to what are things that are that marginalize and oppress us. We are the arbiters of what marginalizes and oppresses us. Just like I wouldn't tell a black person what they should think about issues pertaining to black people, I wouldn't tell a Muslim person the issues that are dealing with anti-Islamic sentiment. If they say that I say something that's anti-Islamic, I'm going to listen to them and I'm going to hear it and I'm going to absorb it and pay attention. Just like Jewish people should be free and should be the ones to dictate what is anti-Semitic and what is not. Now, there will be disagreements amongst Jews, which is why you kind of need to be like, hey, just because one Jewish person said what you said is okay, doesn't mean you're okay. Like, you don't get to listen to one Jewish person and say, oh, well, that one person said that me saying from the river to the sea, for example, is okay, so therefore I'm going to use that one Jewish person as a place to hang my hat, or maybe hang my yarmulke, I don't know. But that's not how it works. If a black person told me that I could freely say the N-word as much as I want, well, the amount of times that I would want to say the N-word would be 0 already, so I already say the N-word as much as I want, which is 0 times. But one black person shouldn't be able to give me the ability to sign off. It's like, okay, liberal Dan's cool, he gets to drop the M-bomb because we know he's only doing it with love or whatever. No. The general consensus is I and all other white people should not be dropping the N-bomb. Hell, even Robert Downey Jr., when he played the one role in blackface that was probably okay in the last 50 years, he never said the word. He never said it. Because he probably knew, and the writers probably knew, that even though the issue that they were dealing with was definitely more complex than what some, low intelligence people might have thought it might have been, they probably knew, but he still can't say that. But the movie had the actual black actor say it, and they made it a scene. Why? Because white people shouldn't be saying that word. Now, typically white people shouldn't be in blackface either, but I will say to the, there's black Twitter who basically said, no, we don't have a problem with this, and that's just not just one person saying with that movie. That's a whole bunch of people saying, you don't understand what this movie is doing when they do what they're doing. I don't want to talk too much about Tropic Thunder, but it's getting kind of off topic. But point of the matter is black people get to determine what's racist to black people. Muslim people get to determine what is anti-Muslim, Islamophobia for themselves as well. And Jewish people should get the opportunity to say, hey, these are things that are anti-Semitic. But for some reason, when we say things like from the river to the sea is anti-Semitic, we are told, you can't say that, that's terrible. Well, I don't know if Zohran Mamdani has said from the river to the sea. I don't know if he has said that or not. I haven't found it yet if he has. But what he has said is globalize the intifada. And somebody on my Facebook page that's Jewish has a big problem with the fact that he said globalize the intifada. And, do I believe that it is inartful and perhaps that he should be using different terms to point up to make the same point? Probably. Because let's look, it's not the greatest site. I mean, sometimes we'll use it. Sometimes they're flawed. The ADL website, talking about globalize the intifada. The chant is in reference to 2 periods of Palestinian violence against Israel, the intifada, not the global intifada, but, the intifada itself. late 1980s and from 2000 to 2005, Palestinian terrorists committed indiscriminate acts of violence against Israelis, including suicide bombings, shootings, stabbings, targeting people on city buses, eating in restaurants and in nightclubs, resulting in over 1,000 people killed. The slogan is generally understood as a call for indiscriminate violence against Israel and potentially against Jews and Jewish institutions worldwide. But again, that last part, I don't necessarily know if I agree with that last part or not, and they don't give any... It's only one paragraph on the whole thing. Normally, the ADL has long pages and long descriptions about why things are, bad and why things, shouldn't be said or whatever. Mamdani will make the comment that, well, in the translation, I guess, on the Holocaust Museum's website, talking about the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, they use the word intifada because that's what intifada, translates to. But does that mean that it's okay to use it? There are some things that are, people have used from the river to the sea for a lot of stuff prior to Hamas taking it and using it as a call for the eradication of not just the state of Israel, but for the eradication of Jews everywhere. So, is it possible that globalize intifada can be taken as being an anti-Semitic slogan as well? Maybe. I'm not necessarily there yet, but I understand the arguments and the people and the logic of people who would say yes, that it is. Because it, when people think of the intifada, they think of the terrorist attacks and indiscriminately attacking people, not just going after military installations, not just going after troops, but going after innocent civilians, much like what happened on 10/7. And there's another comments that Mamdani made that was talking about after 10/7, he was talking about how Israel needs to stop their actions in Gaza and the West Bank, and that's the only way that we're going to find a way for peace, is of doing that. He later on criticized Hamas for their deplorable attacks against the innocent Israeli civilians. Now, should he have done that as well at the beginning? Sure. But again, just like we are required to be perfect, or else we don't get paid attention to it anymore, the same thing can be said of people who were raised Muslim. Muslim folks are also required in the same boat to say perfect things perfectly all the time. And the one time they either misspeak or say something inartfully, or they leave out something that maybe they shouldn't have left out, it's, oh, he hates Jews then. He must hate Jews because of that. No. No. We should not be demanding 100% perfection on anybody, because nobody is 100% perfect. So, would I prefer that Mamdani say things in a different... Would I prefer that he talk about the plight of the Palestinian people in the West Bank and Gaza, in a different way and not use globalized intifada? Sure. Would I have liked Mamdani to have been critical of both the Hamas attack from the start, and then also be critical of Benjamin Netanyahu and the Netanyahu administration and their actions pre and post 10/7? Yes, absolutely. I would have preferred that. And if he was a perfect person, maybe he would have done that. But again, he's not a perfect person, and expecting marginalized and oppressed people to be perfect in their advocacy is disingenuous. Especially when we know that we ourselves are not perfect, and especially when it's us Jewish people being critical of them, of like Mamdani for not being perfect. Meanwhile, we'll complain when people criticize us when we're not perfect either. So it's hypocritical for people to expect, a little bit of maybe leeway on verbiage, and then not give other people the same leeway on verbiage as well. But there's more about this. So let's go to where is this? Let's see. Is this the website I'm looking for? No, that's NPR. There it is. All right. Lots of web pages open for this. And hey, Teresa, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Well, let's see. Jerusalem Post. Who is Zohran Mamdani, New York City Democratic mayoral candidate with anti-Israel stances? Asking as a question. You know, does he really have anti-Israel stances? Is he against the state of Israel in and of itself? Or is he just being supportive of the Palestinian people and, as such, critical of horrible actions that the Israeli government has taken? Well, let's read what the Jerusalem Post has to say, shall we? Zohran Mamdani won the Democratic primary, making him the favorite candidate. Mamdani is seen by many New Yorkers as the most progressive candidate, relying on a major push from volunteers, celebrities, and influencers. Mamdani has also become known for being a vocal critic of Israeli policies and an advocate for Palestinian rights, leaving members of the city's large Jewish community feeling vulnerable. I mean, I'm a vocal critic of Israeli policies, especially when it pertains to Gaza and the West Bank. Does that make Jewish people upset about me too? I mean, I'm just a podcaster. I mean, he's going to be the mayor of New York City potentially, but still, does that mean he's going to be a threat to the people who are Jewish in the city of New York? Probably not. It goes into a little bit of his history, a little bit. Let's see, Mamdani is a state assembly member for New York's 36th district, representing neighborhoods in Queens. He was where he was raised. He's focused on housing and transportation reform, having introduced 20 pieces of legislation. Only 3 became law. Mamdani has made waves in the New York political scene for refusing to say whether he supports the existence of a state of Israel. Well, let's hope YouTube doesn't kick me off for this, but...
And so I'll ask the same question to both of you. I'll start with you, Mr. Lander. Does the state of Israel have the right to exist?
I support the vision of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state.
Mr. Mamdani, same question. Does the state of Israel have the right to exist?
Yes, like all nations, I believe it has a right to exist and a responsibility also to uphold international law.
Okay.
The horror! He says that Israel should have the right to exist. So, I mean, I am guessing the New York Post did not watch the Colbert Report or whatever, or sorry, the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, going back to his old show. I'm guessing they didn't watch this when they wrote this article. So clearly, he has said on a national late-night TV show that he supports the existence of the State of Israel. But he also wants them to behave responsibly, which is the same thing I've said. Now, he supported such phrases as globalize, intifada, and we've covered that already. But again, I don't expect people to be perfect advocates for the things that they push for, especially when they're part of a marginalized and oppressed groups, because, you know, nobody is perfect, so how can we expect somebody to be? His support for Palestine is a long-time belief and one has actively campaigned on, followed the 10/7 attacks. Mamdani condemned Israel's military response and joined protests call for a ceasefire. I, here on Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left That's Right, condemned Israel's military response to the 10/7 attacks and called for a ceasefire. Of course, I also questioned whether or not you could really have a ceasefire whilst Hamas was still holding hostages, but still, I wanted there to be a ceasefire. And I believe that Israel's actions when it comes to how they responded to the deplorable attacks of 10/7, they were terrible. He goes, the Jerusalem Post says, rather than condemning the attacks, he criticized those attacked. I mean, he didn't criticize the people at the fest, and eventually he did say that Hamas actions were deplorable or whatever. But, yeah, he talked about how Israel and the state of Israel itself and the government of Israel under Netanyahu took actions to respond to these horrific attacks by making their own horrific attacks. And as we saw with how they dealt with Iran, they were able to pinpoint somebody's bedroom and send a smaller missile in to take out the people in that one bedroom or that one apartment or whatever. They could have done the same thing to Hamas in Gaza, but they chose not to, and they chose to, fire indiscriminately at civilian centers. And we all know, and we know that Hamas uses human shields. And that has to be taken into consideration when looking at any criticism that's done of Israel. But even then, Israel's actions have proven themselves to be unreasonable, murderous, and I think guilty of war crimes. Or Netanyahu, at least, should be considered to be guilty of war crimes. Perhaps burying the lead, the next paragraph goes, Mamdani has also said that he would arrest Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu if he came to New York City, despite there being no arrest warrant for Netanyahu in the U.S., during an interview with Mehdi Hasan. I think Benjamin Netanyahu should be dragged in front of The Hague for war crimes that he's done previous to 10/7 and post 10/7. Does that make me a terrible person too? Does that make me not supportive of the state of Israel? Because I don't think that the government of the state of Israel should be attacking in the way that it's attacking? Mamdani reaffirmed this later, saying that it would be in line with international law, despite the U.S. not being a signatory to the Rome Statute, under which the ICC issued its arrest warrant. Again, maybe if I was president of these United States, I would be a signatory to the Rome Statute. While still at university, he co-founded the local chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine. Oh no, wanting justice for Palestinians, how dare he? Like, I'm finding it hard to find anti-Semitism here. He's being pro-Palestinian, which is not anti-Jew. That's one of the things I said in one of my other videos. One of the things that was done when they created the state of Israel in the compromise that created both the state of Israel and the state of Palestine. Of course, the Arab nations didn't allow the state of Palestine to be created because they attacked and then they absorbed West Bank and Gaza into their own countries, only to be reabsorbed back into Israel after the 67 war. But I said clearly that one of the things that has happened that by the creation of the state of Israel and putting all the Jews and all those Palestinian Muslims into the same area together in a very small, compact area, is that whenever people want to, distract people from other things, all they have to do is rile up those two groups, and then they'll start fighting with each other. And if those two groups stopped fighting each other and looked up to see who it was that was pissing on them, maybe they would get together and be like, oh, they're just using us for their own purposes. We need to fight back against them, not against each other. But I can't be critical of somebody who founded a chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine. Why wouldn't you want justice for Palestinian people? I mean, to me, justice for Palestinian people includes removing the Hamas leadership as well. But it also means allowing them to have self-determination, allowing them the right to return to Gaza and West Bank, allowing them to, exist as an independent nation without Israel lording over them, and without Israel, having settlements, without Israel doing all the things that the state of Israel has done that has harmed the peace process. So the globalize intifada, we talked about that a little bit. He drew controversy when he defended the use of the phrase, desperate desire for equality and equal rights, standing up for Palestinian human rights. Jewish community and Jewish institutions, including the Holocaust Museum, roundly condemned these comments. Mamdani has repeatedly stated that he's denounced his anti-Semitism. He feels accusations against him are being used as political weapons to discredit him. He has positioned himself as an anti-status quo candidate, contrasting himself with Cuomo, who resigned amid scandals. Mamdani criticizes Cuomo's political experience, highlighting his own record of not being involved in corruption or scandal. On his platform, Mamdani included proposals to make New York City more affordable, yada, yada, yada. We've discussed that as well. His proposals have been lauded and criticized. Of course, well, because he's a progressive left, so of course the people on the right are going to be critical of him, and then the centrists in the Democratic Party who don't like change, who want status quo, are going to also continue to, go against people who challenge that status quo. But sometimes the status quo needs to be challenged. So, his campaign has gained significant momentum partly to his strong online presence and virality on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. He had the largest volunteer operation in New York City history with 2,700 volunteers. I'm sorry, 27,000 volunteers. That's a lot of volunteers. So, again, do I sit here and wish that Mamdani would word things better? Sure. Am I going to hold it against him that he's not perfect? No. I'll repeat that over and over and over again until it sinks through to some of the people who are bound to come to this video and who are bound to criticize me for supporting Mamdani because somehow they're going to view him as being anti-Jew. But I don't see enough here to justify a claim that he's anti-Semitic. I just don't see it. Am I open to ideas? Might there be something else that I could find sometime in the next, few weeks, months, whatever, that exposes him as actually being anti-Semitic? Sure. Why not? Just like I don't think Bill Clinton had anything to do with anything of the shenanigans that went on Epstein's Island. But if it came out that he did, bury him under the goddamn prison and screw him. I'm already mad at him now because he backed Cuomo, because that's stupid. But I'm not going to sit here and demand perfection when I'm not perfect, and I don't want people to expect me to word things perfectly every single time, or otherwise, hold me as a terrible person because I was inartful in how I said something. Again, going back to my opposition to the use of the term from the river to the sea. Do I believe that everybody who uses from the river to the sea, which I feel is an anti-Semitic phrase, to be anti-Semitic? Not necessarily. I think there are people who just might not know better. There are people who are caught up in the slogans because we're very slogan-driven and might not realize the history of it. Now, maybe someone who wants to be mayor of New York City should be a little less naive about certain things, like how globalize intifada might be taken by his constituents, and maybe perhaps finding a better way to word things. But again, I'm not going to expect perfection from him. So I can't sit here and say he's anti-Semitic, even though he might have said a thing that is considered by some to be anti-Semitic. If I was living in New York, if I was a New York City voter and I had the opportunity to vote in the primary, and the primary, I don't know all the breadth and depth of whatever, I would have had the opportunity to have an instant runoff, and I might have put Brad Lander first on there, but I guarantee you that I would have put Mamdani on there, on the top 5 of the people who I choose for the instant runoff voting. I can guarantee you who wouldn't have been on that list if there was more than 5 candidates. Cuomo. Would not have put Cuomo on that, above Mamdani at least. And if there were more than 5 candidates, I wouldn't have put Cuomo on there at all. So if you were to ask me, I don't live in New York. I'm not from New York. I've never lived in New York. But if you were going to ask me as a Jewish American what I would feel, how I would rank them if I was, I would clearly put Mamdani above Cuomo because of the allegations against him, both in how he wasn't the greatest when it came to reacting to COVID either, but, a person who has harassed, allegedly, that many people, sometimes it's hard to then bring you to say the words allegedly because so many people saying that he did these horrible things. Where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And that seems to be a sure hell of a lot of smoke existing in the Cuomo world. So, but as a Jewish person, which is circling back to the life as a Jewish person in this country, just to sum up, we again have to be perfect. We are expected to be perfect. If we're not, we're criticized by people on the left and on the right. We're told that we can't hold these beliefs that we have for whatever reason that we do. But at the end of the day, if I expect people to treat me in a way that doesn't expect perfection from me, I can't then go expect perfection from other people. Which is why I'm happy to see that Mamdani won that primary. If he turns out to be a piece of crap, many politicians are pieces of crap. If he turns out to be a piece of crap, fine, I can change my viewpoint because unlike, MAGA conservative type people, when presented with new information, I will change my mind. To them, that's a sign of weakness. To me, that's what reasonable, intelligent people do. Anyway, are you a Jewish person living in America? Do you feel the same way that I do about certain things? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Make sure to leave your comments down below in this video. Remember to like it, share, subscribe to the channel. And, unless you backed Andrew Cuomo or endorsed Andrew Cuomo or support Hamas and other horrible groups, have a good day. Anyway, so I usually don't end a lot of videos like that. But I've been trying to slow that down and stop that. But, as good old Donnie Boy Trump says,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. And thank you, Robin, for gifting 5 Liberal Dan memberships and helping 5 more people, including Michael Hunt, to be Liberal Danimals. Thank you so much for that. We will go back through the comments in a second just to see. Let's see. I take the same position as the ICC. Netanyahu is guilty of war crimes. Hamas is guilty of war crimes. Putin is guilty of war crimes. Prosecute all of them. Permanent ceasefire now. Let aid into Gaza. Release all the hostages in 2-state solution. Thank you for summing up my stance exactly. Probably in a much more concise way than I've ever said that stance. I should copy it and paste it and put it on a postcard, or maybe put it on a t-shirt. I don't know. Yes, Netanyahu has committed wartime crimes long before 10/7. I've said that too. I can support the Israeli people while thinking Netanyahu is an a-hole. Exactly. Aaron West, I saw Mr. Spock yesterday. Mr. Spock's been dead? No, I'm sorry. I know you're talking about a user. But the funny thing is I'm usually the most verbose person. But, I mean, you did manage to get concise there. Look, I've had to make... I got better at making things concise, especially when I ran for office, when I ran for Congress and I had to make some 30-second ads. I got really good at taking big ideas and shoving them down to either 30 seconds or a minute. Because that's what I had to do, because I only had that much time on the radio to be able to say those things. So I found myself being better and better and better at being able to make a concise point. But when I have a long form segment like, this podcast, that's what happens. So, all right, let's scroll on back and see what we've missed. Let's see. Again, this is cut off. Back from before Teresa first made it in the chat. I did say hey to Teresa. Let's see. Does AOC dig Mamdani? I have to find out. AOC endorsed Mamdani. Endorsements. AOC listed as number 2. So there you go. Wait. There you go. AOC number 2 right there. Let's see. See, when people who do not like you are allowed to define you, it ends badly. Yes, it does. That's what's happening in our country to Hispanic Americans right now, and I guess to Iranian Americans as well. The Trump administration is allowed to define them, and as such, it's not ending well for them at all. See, Steve, Jeff Curry, hey you redneck F. I've not said hello yet. I was listening to your kid's new single or YouTube drop just before Dan. I feel like I know the little Rugrats. Oh, that's nice. Dawn, hello Dawn, good to see you. Hey, Chad, perfect is the enemy of the good. Now you're sounding like Obama, Chad. You're sounding totally like Obama. Because that's what Obama used to say. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I say that too all the time. And I got that from President Barack Obama. Let's see. Big Hook. All media institutions are being run, owned, and directed by conservative billionaires now. CNN is now a failing channel. Exactly. The failing CNN, the failing MSDNC, blah, 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 blah. That's the thing. Like, Trump was criticized MSNBC for a while, but I'm also critical of MSNBC, but we're critical of MSNBC for 2 completely different reasons. Yeah, CNN is faux news light. Exactly. Robin M. Israel allowed Hamas to invade. I've said this multiple times on the show. Yes, they did. And we've went into that, I think, in part of one of my videos on the Israeli series. I even predicted it. Before it came out that they would have, if they would have known that it was happening, that Netanyahu would have allowed it to happen because it was better for him to react to the attack than to stop it. Which is probably took the same book out of the page of the Bush administration, Bush 2, Electric Boogaloo, because there was intel saying that we were going to be struck, but it was better for Bush to be able to respond to an attack than to prevent one. But we know that the Netanyahu administration got the information showing that Hamas was going to attack at some point, and they just let it happen. Because maybe they didn't realize how bad it was going to be, but they let it happen. And as I said in the show, because they let it happen, some of the blood on the Israeli side belongs to the hands of Netanyahu as well, and other people in his administration who let it happen, who didn't whistleblow, etc. Let's see. My last colonoscopy, I was awake for the whole procedure. That's something that's coming up for me as well, by the way. Not only do I have to get a kidney stone pew-pewed, they're putting a laser way up there. Every time I think about what has to happen afterwards, I just get the shivers, because, like, Cassie also gets the shivers about it too, because we can't stand handling it. If anybody, I don't even want to talk about it for fear that I might make one of y'all puke over what has to happen afterwards. Not what happens during, what happens afterwards. Jan, apparently I went on a rant under anesthesia. Man, imagine I'll be like, look, if I'm under anesthesia and I start doing a rant about politics, just film it so I can put it on my YouTube channel. That would be awesome. See, Big Hook, I could not feel it, but I was able to hear and talk to the staff during the colonoscopy. Well, at least you couldn't feel it, right? Big Hook, now I imagine you ranting about the plight of humanity to the doctor the whole time. You're like, Donald Trump is the same thing that y'all have your fingers up, or y'all have your tools up, or whatever. Let's see. Big Hook, oddly enough, my doctor went to medical school where my dad taught, and remembered my dad teaching him the pharmacology section. Small world. It's a small world after all. Let's see. Oh my God, I've had both of those procedures before. Not fun. For me, the colonoscopy was far less bad. The prep was the only horrible part. Yeah, that's the only thing. Like, I don't know how the prep's going to work out, because I have to be able to walk, I guess, or run to the bathroom. Not sure when I'll be able to do that when it comes to, having a new knee. So there's going to be, it's going to be a mess, not just for the colonoscopy stuff, but the fact that I have to, have the pew-pew for the kidney stone. And look, it doesn't hurt right now because it hasn't made its way to the ureter, but that's why we're doing the procedure now, or sometime soon, actually on the 14th of July, because, well, don't want to get into the ureter and then me be in major pain. Yeah, exactly, Tim. The Clintons endorsed Cuomo, and we talked about that. We mentioned that, and that's why I was very critical of old Bill Clinton for doing that. Let's see. Oh, so Duro, Mr. Spock, Marsha, James, and Michael Hunt all got free memberships from Robin. Again, thank you so much, Robin, as I'm going through this. Yawn. I have the memory. Jeff says, I have the memory of a goldfish right now. Whoever said heard Son's new music, thank you, Dan reminded me. Jeff also says he has the memory of a goldfish right now. Whoever said Sons have new music, thank you, Dan, for reminding me. Let's see. Trump is being played by Iran and Putin and Israel and Netanyahu. It's a game of possum and the clowns don't know better. True. Robin, cops didn't understand what the threat was being called in. It took many phone calls for the realized terrorist attack. Right, but that's part of the reason is that Donald Trump also enabled the whole 10/7 attacks that happened, because Donald Trump shared Israeli intelligence with Russia and the Israeli information on how to deal with their warning systems. Russia then gave it to Iran. Iran then gave it to Hamas. Boom, boom, boom. That's how it was. They were enabled to actually get the attack done. So some of it is Donald Trump's fault, but no conservative will ever admit that, even though they'll claim to support Israel. But the reason many of those conservatives support Israel is not for good reasons, like, oh, we love Israel, we love the Jewish people. No, they only support Israel for two reasons: A, Netanyahu bombs the crap out of the Gazans, and they like that, and B, when whatchamacallit, when the end times come, a bunch of us have to be there so we can die first. With friends like that, who needs enemies? Thank you, Aaron, for the $5 super chat. Yes, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Let's see. See, Rob and I have twins. We get to bump into each other now at the bar. It's so fun to be around out at my mom. Or as my mom. Nice. Let's see. I'll be really disappointed if Hillary also endorsed Cuomo. I've been using the hashtag Hillary was right about everything for a long time. I do not know at Churches at Every Game if it was not listed that Hillary Clinton endorsed Cuomo. It is only listed on his website that Bill did. I don't know what that means for Hillary. We can also search that real quick. Did Hillary Clinton endorse Cuomo for mayor? I'm getting Bill Clinton endorses. Bill Clinton endorses. Just Clinton endorses. This is something back in 2018. So no, I don't see any evidence showing that there was a joint endorsement by both Bill and Hillary Clinton. So, and since she was a senator from the state of New York, you'd think that had she done so, that they would have listed it, but they didn't. So my inkling is that Hillary Clinton did not join her husband in endorsing Cuomo. But again, I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll rectify the situation and correct it. So thank God Hillary remains ahead of the curve. Hashtag but her emails. Exactly. So considering Bill's indiscretions, it's not surprising. I did not have sex with that woman. And when I was pointing and saying that, I was pointing to Hillary in the back of the room. So, yeah. I think way back, when I was in, maybe it was high school or early college, maybe, I would be like, here's my impression of Bill Clinton having sex. Like, oh, Hillary. So, let's see. I just want to say your shoulders look shrunken in your baggy tee. I mean, the reason it's a baggy tee is because, it's loose. It's looser than I had it originally because I've lost a bunch of weight. But I can see it. I also am wearing another Stitch shirt. Here's Stitch. Tomorrow is Stitch Day, 626, because Stitch is Experiment 626, and tomorrow is June 26th. June 26th is also the anniversary of the day that I met my wife. So I think I talked about that last time as well. But thank you, Josh. Appreciate you. I was fishing for somebody to say you do a good impression of Bill. So, and I used to not. I think we had this conversation about how I could do an impression of Bill, but I can't. And I got the impression I got the tips on how to do the impression from I forget who again, but. He also does a good Christopher Walken, and I cannot do Christopher Walken to save my life. But I also couldn't do Bill Clinton for a while, because I'm not a woman. Anyway, but I couldn't get it done until he was on the radio. The guy was on the radio, and he says he was talking about. Hold on, let's see. Where is it? Because a lot of people do Christopher Walken pretty well. But I'm just forgetting. Kevin Pollak is the one. Yes, Kevin Pollak is the one who does a very good Christopher Walken, also does a good Clinton. And they were asking him, how do you do a Bill Clinton imitation so well? And then he's like, well, I take a Jimmy Carter, and then I throw in a little bit of Elvis Presley, and that's how you get Bill Clinton. And I tried it, and I was like, that's perfect, that's genius. Now I can do an impression of Bill Clinton. So, break out your Monica Lewinsky impersonation. I'll have to find a blue dress. Anyway, again, people look down on Monica Lewinsky, or Linda Tripp, just completely effed her over. I think, while I do believe that, I don't necessarily think that Bill took advantage of her necessarily, simply because of the fact that she was quoted as saying that she went to go to Washington to go get her presidential knee pads. That being said, I think Monica Lewinsky was treated very unfairly by everybody in the media because it was Clinton's indiscretion, not hers. So Clinton should have been the one that brunted all of that. That being said, Hasking is trying to put him up on impeachment charges because he lied under oath who is going to tell the truth about cheating on their wife, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's not like, whatever. I can do a fair walk-in and Alan Rickman. I don't know if I can do an Alan Rickman either, but, I'd probably be better at Rickman than I could do at walk-in. So I get the impression that you tried marijuana. I did not inhale. I tried marijuana, but I did not inhale. Anyway. Let's see. I learned only recently that Tapper tried to get a scoop from Monica Lewinsky. The guy has no shame, and I agree she was treated horribly. That's such clear power imbalance at play. Yes, that's the other thing. Like, when it comes to consent, you have to take power imbalances into play, because if somebody has that much power over you, is it possible that anybody can consent? I mean, if you're not married to the president, is it possible that anybody could consent to a president with all the power that a president has? I don't know. But, I mean, you would then have to, I think it would have to almost fall under the affirmative defense type thing, where you would have to basically explain why the power imbalance didn't imply a lack of consent. You'd have to make that point, I think. Or the prosecution would have to, if you're going to make an affirmative defense at least, or the prosecution would then have to show why the power imbalance made it not consent, which is how most things would happen. But usually with affirmative defenses, except for in conservative red states, affirmative defenses require the defense to prove their case. So I'm curious as to what Monica's doing. I don't know what she's actually doing, but she's had some brilliant tweets every once in a while. I know she's had some brilliant tweets pertaining to a lot of different things. So I cheated on my wife. Does it count once we were separated? In the divorce hearings? Maybe. Otherwise, no. For fuck's sake, try THC, try to know your limitations. Anyway, there was one day where I should have known my limitations, but I did not. Anyway, that gives me Ross vibes. We were on a break! Pivot! I am a huge Friends nerd. Like, if you... I know too much about Friends. I can quote too much about Friends. It's ridiculous how much about Friends that I know. Perfect impression. Thank you. But yeah, they were on a break. Hey, Marsha, good to see you. I think Americans can do Rickman as Hans Gruber rather than Rickman as Rickman. Controversial. That's possible. You ask for a miracle, I give you the FBI. Oh, that's more Sean Connery. I think a little Sean Connery came out there. I don't know why, but yeah, because I can do an imitation of Sean Connery as well. If you want to go into my repertoire of Sean Connery impressions, be careful what you shoot at. Most things in here don't react too well to bullets. So anyway. Yeah, Monica's hilarious today. She's very articulate. I mean, and she's, witty on the ball. Like, she'll come out and be like, hey, hello there, when, like, something happens, and it's like, whereas when it's like people are talking about things that could be related to her, but don't realize it, and she's like, hey, right here. And it's just like, it's hilarious. Connery was my favorite Bond. James Bond. Pushing galore. Yeah, I was literally just about to say that, 250 kilo. I must ask you a question, but should I shave it for later? Yeah, I can't watch Parents anymore, though. Rest in peace, Matthew Perry. Yeah, I don't know. I think Matthew Perry would want you to continue to laugh at his humor. I mean, could he be any more funny? So, anyway. I did not win Friends Trivia on the cruise, though. I didn't, because for some reason they'll ask weird oddball questions that have nothing to do with what happened on the show, but something like external to Friends. I'd be like, what? This is not a Friends question. This is I know way too much about all of Hollywood question or whatever. I did really well on it, but there are people in trivia questions teams who will cheat, and B, they'll have like 6 people and they'll have heard all of the same questions over and over and over again. So then you have to be like, okay, well, I'm never going to win this. Though I did win, me and my wife by ourselves did win trivia, Disney parks trivia on the Disney cruise. And in reality, I could have done it by myself as well, but she also could have done it by herself as well because we just know way too much about Disney. There was like one question where we kind of looked back and forth at each other. We're like, was this right? Is this right? Yeah. There's also a cruise. I think it was the same cruise with the Disney trip. I think it was a Disney cruise. We did a 90s music trivia. To like, you had to name the song and you had to name the artist. And there was like, I think maybe 10 or I think there were 15 questions. So I had to name the song and the artist. And we got 30 out of 30, but I misspelled a word because there were two other teams that also got 30 out of 30. And I misspelled a word. I think I misspelled the Macarena. And because I misspelled the Macarena, we didn't win. Although, we're like, again, we were only one of 3 people who knew who sang the Macarena, Los Del Rios. I think that was probably because from a previous trivia contest that we participated in. So, let's see. What did Steve say? Can someone talk more than me or something to get rid of that clown thing? I hate it. Wait, which clown thing? I don't know. I sang the soundtrack of Friends here in Minneapolis. But like you sang the original, like the theme song from the Pretenders or whatever. I wish Sean Connery would have gone on Celebrity Jeopardy when Alex was still alive. That would have been funny. Shucker Trebek. Actually, that was one time. One time I was hanging out with a friend, and the friend just came up to me randomly, or just asked me randomly, "Have you seen Saturday Night Live's Celebrity Jeopardy?" I don't know if you've mentioned the Sean Connery, the Daryl Hammond Sean Connery impression or not. And I just looked at him and I was like, "Shuck it, Trebek, shuck it long and shuck it hard." And he wanted to play me his ringtone that he just got, and that was the ringtone that he got, was that. So Sean Connery was kind of a prick. I think a lot of people who are actors are kind of pricks, though, or at least they can be. I don't know. Jan Morgan, GQP tax cuts for the rich will add 3.4 trillion to the immediately estimated 35 trillion debt over 30 years. Well, yeah. Although when it was asked of one of the people in the Trump administration when they were at the hearing, and they asked, yes, I have yes or no questions that I want to ask you because my people who are my constituents want to hear these answers. So let's ask you yes or no. Yes or no. Will the big, beautiful, bogus bill, will it raise the debt? Yes or no? And he could not answer the question. Because if he knew he did answer the question, he'd have to say yes, which would mean that they would have to admit that, they were all full of shit. So, oh, you're talking about the top fans thing. Yeah, Steve is number one. Steve's number one. Steve's number one. Although, whole bunch of people are at 75, whole bunch of people are at 25. I still don't know how it's all calculated. But whatever. Maybe we'll figure out some way to give rewards for the top fans. Thank you, Marsha, for the $1.99 super chat. Appreciate you. Or the super sticker, I guess I should say. Steve, it represents the ranking of how many people blocked you. That's great. That's funny. That is rather funny. I thought you were Scottish, Steve. Well, I think he is. And as we all know...
No Scottish, it's crap.
Yep, there you go. Jeff, this is the sound the doggy makes. Sean, moo. Well, that's the sound your mother made last night. Of course, there's the other... my wife's probably sitting there laughing at me right now anyway. What does he do? Why is he doing impressions? Why not talking politics? What's the color of snow? Yellow. No, that's not correct. Are you sure? At what it was, I wrote your name in the snow. Of course, it was your mother's handwriting. She was holding this pen, so to speak. Anyway. Buy Dan a jet. See what your rank is then. I don't need a jet. I'm going to need some of my medical bills paid for, but I don't need a frickin' jet because we live in a dystopian society where medical debt is crushing. Yeah. Where you go where the Huskies go, do not eat the yellow snow. So, yes, the Rembrandts. I'm sorry. You're right. I got that wrong. I don't know why I thought it was the Pretenders. I'm silly. Yeah, I only recently learned that the Connery-Trebek feud wasn't actually real and created entirely by SNL. Yeah, and it's hilarious. I mean, I didn't even realize how necessarily good the Will Ferrell Trebek impression was until I saw like earlier Trebek episodes. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see it now. Because I thought it was just a little bit overdone, over the top when it came to the look or whatever. And then he came on the show afterwards to kind of close everything out. Let's see. Steve, living up to the Highlander credo of there can be only one. There can be only one. You have to say that with Sean Connery's voice too. There can be only one. Of course, one of the worst Sean Connery movies was Highlander 2. Which is why there should be only one. Some of the best YouTube shorts, yes. I'm sure everybody's now going to be getting a whole crap ton of shorts. Here's a... Aaron, say your word. Say the thing that you said. Say the thing that you said, Aaron, now. I demand it. Waiting for Aaron to say what she said earlier so I can now make my comment. I'll have to start playing the Jeopardy theme. Do 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 do. Hal says we're all tops. Well, clearly Hal doesn't know Impeccable Living, who is clearly a bottom.
Oh my!
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate you. And I'll clip that over on Twitch as well. Impeccable Living. I was doing gay stuff. And was I correct? Yeah. No, Josh, you are wrong. His name is not Burt Reynolds on Celebrity Jeopardy. His name was Turd Ferguson. I was waiting for somebody to bring up Burt Reynolds specifically to say that his name wasn't Burt Reynolds, that his name was Turd Ferguson. So... And it's just funny, it was like, not my name. It's not my name. And then like Trebek or fake Trebek is like, Turd Ferguson. Say Will Ferrell plays guitar and sings Reckless, Eric, Whole Wide World, Awesome, Stranger the Vision. Yeah, I mean, it's weird how many actors are actually singers. Like freaking Kevin Bacon with a band. So Steve, you are a number 2. Ha ha ha! Another Celebrity Jeopardy line. Oh, Don took over first place, but you both have the same number of points. Actually, there are 7 people tied for first. So I don't know why Dawn is listed at first. There are 7 people tied for first place with 150 XP. So let's see. Do I want to do this one? I'm probably not going to go to the phones, but because there is a coming to terms with activism, a few videos I wanted to do, but I don't know if I want to wait till after I come back from vacation to do or not. I don't know. Yeah, Big Hook, never meet your heroes because they'll never live up to the fantasy you created in your mind. So don't come up with fantasies that, well, I guess maybe for Impeccable Living, don't come up with fantasies about your heroes because they perhaps, are not going to come true and then you'll be disappointed. I mean, I don't know if Impeccable Living would be not be disappointed anyway, but, as good old Donnie Boy says.
It is what it is.
Anyway, I do think I'm going to probably go ahead and end the show now without opening the phone line, simply because of the fact that I do have laundry and packing to do for Friday. And I want to make sure it's done so I'm not rushing tomorrow and sweating my butt off. So, but thank you everybody for joining. And again, just as a reminder, I'm going out of town next week. So, I won't have a regular show Monday or Wednesday. It's possible I might post some short videos. It's possible I might put some other content up there that's not as long, or if something big happens, it's possible I might go live. I don't know. But, and then again, if we won't have a show on July 7th because that's my anniversary, unless Cassie gets exhausted and needs to go to bed early, then it might at that point come back on live. But if we do a show on July 7th, it'll be late. Otherwise, we'll do a special Tuesday edition of Liberal Dan Radio on July 8th, probably before I flip on over and do my Nerdy Dan stream as well. Jeff, yes, don't open the phone lines. Steve, I'll cash my chips in now. I don't know what that gets you, though. We haven't quite figured that out. So, anyway, thank you all very much. Appreciate you. We will start off, I guess, going to break with the Baby Incubator song, and then move to the other two, and then we'll be off for the night. So, thank you all so much. Remember, if you haven't smashed that like button, smash that like button, share the videos, subscribe, comment on videos. It's one thing you could do next week. If you missed Liberal Dan, go watch some of my older videos, and also, like them, comment on them, engage with the trolls. I mean, usually they say don't engage with the trolls, but engage with the trolls, because it gets the algorithm up. And as we all know, Al Gore needs more rhythm. And if you want a shirt that says that, go to store.liberaldan.com, and you can get your Al Gore Needs More Rhythm shirt, as well as the FDT 2. So thank you all very much. Have a good one. Trucker John, good to see you, Trucker John. Wanted to make sure to say hi, Trucker John. I did see you there, so I wanted to make sure to say hello. Trucker John and At Least Impeccable Living said hi, and at least I got to say my comment to you. So again, thank you all so much. Appreciate you. Peace.
They wrote it in the laws, ink still bleeds, treating women like soil, just planting seeds. She's gone, brain dead, not even awake, but the state's got a claim, gonna plant its stake. Say it's God's will, say it's life they protect, but they ain't the ones feeling pain or neglect. From Texas to Georgia, they set the trap, rights rolled back while they smile and clap. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey, MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. This ain't pro-life, it's control and shame. They don't care if she's gone, just playing a game. Keep her hooked to machines, cold and still, just a vessel to them, not a human with will. No consent, no voice, no chance to resist. Just laws in place, written with a clenched fist. Hospitals scared, judges playing God. Bodies ain't temples, just stay on pods. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey, MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Bands in the dark, they don't care who it kills. Sacking courts while they strip out all of your wills. But we'll fight back, march loud, burn bright. Cause this ain't the end, it's the start of the fight. Gilead's here, ain't no grace. And those leopards are coming to eat your face. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator.
The creative director at WGSO had a little something he thought you should know. When Dan picked on his bits, Steve got real gruff. So Steve called Dan a flake, called him liberal dandruff. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Steve's about to find out his mistake. In this feud, Dan's Kendrick, Steve is Drake. Dan might not be the world's best singer, but he's got more talent in his little finger. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. Faux patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, the animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk on the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk comes to left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. 'Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk on the left, that's right. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right.